So recently I've been seeing a lot of people turn random objects into like characters, right? And the people that I've been seeing do it are really good at just drawing overall. So I feel like we might run into some skill issues, but should be pretty fun still. I feel like a lot of their character designs are just like pumped full of creativity, and I feel like it's like one of the biggest flexes you can have. So we're gonna be giving it our shot and seeing what we end up with. I feel like this is gonna kind of end up being like a general process for how I design characters as well. So feel free to stick around if you're interested and follow along. And really, the question now is, where did we get our object? And if you've been drawing for more than about 13 seconds, we already know the answer. It's good old Pinterest, all right? Pretty much what I did is I just go, to my old faithful Pinterest. I type in the search bar random object, and I find the first cute looking object. All right. Mine, I had a few good ones. There's like this NES like cat thing. I have no idea what it is. I've never seen it before in my life. It was pretty cute, and we could have made a cat girl out of it. So maybe that's not my bad. Maybe I messed up there. But I ended up going with this teal fan. I see the baddie potential in this fan. You could say I'm a fan. You could say I'm a fan. Alright, so now we got our object chosen. Okay, we're ready to draw. But hold on. We don't know what we're drawing yet. I mean, we know it's going to be a baddie, but we don't know anything about her, right? So, just visually and kind of the vibe I was getting, I wanted something that was like a dependable but like fun personality. Definitely, I wanted to keep the shapes real simple, real smooth, like a pretty bubbly appearance. And then I just wanted an overall like fun, upbeat kind of vibe for the whole design. Keeping it pretty simple. So first thing that I thought was a handhold fan. I was thinking katana from like Mortal Kombat, like that kind of. The next one I was thinking about was like flying drones and like kind of a detachable armor kind of thing. I was getting some inspiration from that from Mare from Arknights. If you're degenerate, you'd know. One option was like a shield that like spins like a fan. Get it? Because fan. And then I was thinking kind of like more of a support class for this whole kind of deal, just because I don't know about you, but I mean the fan just kind of sits there. And just a quick little side note here, I think it's really helpful to put together like a reference board for whenever you're making a new character from scratch like this. Here's the one that I was using for this character. We got a few of fans of the same era, different colors, some armor that I was thinking about using for reference, the album I was listening to, just that I like the vibe of. And then some like different outfits I was just messing with. And honestly, I didn't end up using, I'd say 90% of these. But it's just something to get your brain thinking. I mean, mine takes a little bit to get running. This plus a double scooped pre-workout, I mean, we can draw baddies all day, And right here, I'm just kind of putting my like thoughts into some form of a concept, right? Just getting some, what would the fan look like? What would the posing look like? Are we going sword and shield, just shield? How many drones would she have? Like, would she be able to fly with them? That kind of thing. And I ended up going with the drone idea. I just thought it was cool. Now we're just developing that a little bit more. What would the gauntlet look like? That kind of thing. What would the whole silhouette look like? Would there be extra shields? Potentially. Who knows? I don't know. And then, trying out some different colors here. I know I wanted to keep it pretty simple. And the actual fan had like a teal, a white, silver, and red. And I added a little bit of orange in there just as an accent color. I had to. But, I tried to keep it pretty simple. And normally I go through like 5 or 6 different color renditions, but I honestly messed with the first one, which is pretty rare. So I'm just going to be going with that. And now we get to the actual fun part, in my opinion, drawing. This is the part that I usually skip to and then immediately backpedal from when I realize I didn't think through anything. So I typically start out with just like a super rough sketch, damn near a figure sketch at that point, right? And I just erase stuff and then slowly render, like, I don't even know if you'd call it rendering, but just like slowly cleaning it up. And then I get to a point where it's like, okay, this looks kind of shitty, but I guess it's okay. That's kind of where I stop. I guess I could try and do line art, but I just can't pull a line to save my life, is pretty much where we're at. So I just ignore it and move on. I like to start out with just a base, typically like bright orange, so that I can alpha lock the layer, which basically just means you can't draw outside of it. So you alpha lock it and then paint in other colors afterwards. So that way all my colors are just on one layer. It's super easy. My little ape brain can't mess it up too badly. And I try and like streamline my process when I can. So I try and end up with like 3 to 4 layers when the drawing's all said and done. Next step, shading. And in my opinion, the easiest way to do shading is just to make a new layer, do a clipping mask so you can't draw outside of the layer underneath, which is your base colors, and then set that layer to multiply, which there's math or whatever, there's like color theory behind it, but it basically just makes a good shadow color based on your initial color that you chose. And if you choose like a desaturated gray in the color of your ambient light, which is typically blue, it works like 90% of the time. Yeah, and then you just go through your shading as per usual with your multiply layer, just tootle away. And, I like to change the colors of the layer just to like make the drawing a little bit better. And then, really after that, we're about 90% of the way there. And then that last little 10%, it goes by pretty quick, but I feel like it kind of makes the drawing look alive. And that is usually smaller details and highlights. So typically that's like on metal, like some extra reflections, ambient light reflections on like this character's skin. Highlights in the hair and the eyes, especially those two white ones in the eyes are magic, and then typically a quick little background. Especially when it's a character design like this, I keep it pretty simple. Okay, I think she's looking cute, so we can make a wholesome drawing. I've been playing way too much Pokemon Heart Gold recently. There was one drawing of Misty holding her Meryl, and I like that pose. So we're gonna be going with that with her drone. I think it's like cute if she really like takes good care of them and treats them as like humans. And maybe they have like an AI personality or something. Just having fun with it. So I guess I'll just shut my mouth for once and let you guys enjoy the speed paint. And, I think we made a pretty solid character design today and also a cute drawing. I'm overall pretty happy with it. It was a lot more difficult than I thought it'd be, especially like the brainstorming part. But, I think it's a pretty fun like challenge that I might just incorporate in my practice. And if you guys do end up following along, I'd love to see them. So stop by my Discord server and pop them in there, But I think that's all I got for this week. So I'll see you next Saturday. Peace.